Vincenzo's Go Crypto Investing this July, I believe the 13th, 2025. Daily, nightly cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, gold, and silver bullion update. And this is a very important update. And I thought I was making a video earlier today, but it did not go out. As I believe, as this is an overall manipulated market, as XLM has outrun the market and hit 50 cents, which is just incredible. And old Vincenzo apologizes to my audience that I thought it was going to get to 18 cents before this rally. And I know I can't be perfect, but I apologize to my members of Jabroni Killers and to my audience that has been watching me, because you do know I went out in a bold industry only and industry first mover, went out on a limb up here just after it hit the 63 cents right there. See that? Just after it hit that 63 cents with the COVID top and the grayscale filing, right in that red circle there, when it was between 55 and 60 cents, I made a bold call that the price of XLM was going to go down to 18.5 cents, or this green underneath support level. Oops, hold on. And it was going to go down there before we had a rally. And if you look at where we were at, we'll hit our industry measuring tool from that high, but from where I made the call, from about, we'll do the mean, 53 cents, we said it would go down 65.48%, and then have a massive rally to 43 cents. It went down on the wick, 62.85%, or to 20 cents. Did not quite get there. And the only reason I'm saying I apologize is I still thought it had a chance to get there even after this rally, and it came back. I still thought it could get there until the end of last week, when XLM or XRP and Bitcoin were rallying, and Bitcoin hit a new high and XLM was down there. And then we made the call that if it broke north and hit and held and got above that 25.5 cents again, it would probably clear the moving averages and at least come up to the 31 cents. And it did do that, and obviously hit all the way up to 50 cents now, right? So I do apologize, but I still believe we gave you that first mover advantage by everybody that wanted to freak out and FOMO in up here when they didn't buy during the bear market. We told you no, and we made a bold stance and a bold statement that you do not buy up here. There would be a better buying opportunity, and it did give you a better buying opportunity. Not to say that it can't come back down again, but just saying if it didn't, I apologize, but it has had a ferocious rally. But something that you'll notice, back here at the height of this rally, you had 5 million in volume, 13, 16, 11, 9, and it peaked out at 20.86 million. Then when you had this the pump before this, but started the double bottom, you had 15, then you had 12, and then you had 17. Look what you've had here. 4, 4.09, 2, 215, right? And 489 today. So the volume is much, much less. So it's just something that we're going to be very focused on. Is this just an overinduced pump, and it's going to give it all back and do something like this in the next 6 to 10 days, right? So it's something that we're going to be watching. But if it does not come back to the 18 cents, I always like my predictions to hit and hold firm. But it's going to be very interesting because now they've had this over-exuberant rally, but the volume, when you look at the numbers, hasn't been it's been a lot less than what it was back in early spring. Your new underneath support now is this 43 cents. When you come down and retest the 43 cents, can you hold it? If you can hold it, you can continue up. If you can't hold it and you get underneath it, they need to be looking at more towards the 36 cents, right? So that's something that we're looking at there. But something else that I was looking at and wanted to get into real quick is in, where's my chat GBT? Because it was something that I had on here earlier. Trump. I have this on here because this is what I want to talk about, and something that I think could cut down this rally just like it did in April, and cut down the stock market rally like it did in April when Trump and his tariffs, he tried to implement his tariffs, right? the stock market and crypto. I don't even know if that's spelled correctly there. I've had a little bit of something to drink. But he wanted to implement his tariffs, and what happened? The stock market and crypto, the stock market went down 30 to 40%, so he had to put a 90-day pause on. And what's very important about that is the rest of the world looked at Trump, and he perceives it as the world's looking at him like he's soft, and he would not actually ever actually fully implement the tariffs. It's more of all bark and no bite. And I believe this time, as the 90-day pause is coming up on August 1st, and he's threatened to put new tariffs in, and he said he's going to put, and did put, a 50% tariff on copper imports, which spiked copper 10% and catapulted it to a new all-time high and promoted the next leg of this commodity bull market, less like palladium and platinum that I'm talking about. But my fear and what I think is going to happen, because we know this market is heavily manipulated and heavily pushed by the powers that be to fleece, heist, and shiest in a manipulated way, the retail trader and investor. I believe Trump doesn't want to look like he's soft, doesn't want to look like he's all bark and no bite. He's going to implement some of these tariffs on August 1st, and I believe that's going to, just like it did in April and May, it's going to temporarily stop the bull market in the stock market and crypto, and more specifically Bitcoin and Ethereum and some of the bigger altcoins, and it's going to have a massive sell-off to fleece the retail trader that are trying to run in and jump in on this pump that just happened in the stock market and crypto. As new 30% tariffs on EU and Mexico, Trump has threatened to impose 30% tariffs on all imports from the European Union, Mexico, set to begin August 1st, effective July 7th. Tariff package on continues to reciprocate tariffs 25% on imports from Japan and South Korea, up to 40% from nations like Laos and Myanmar. I don't know what that word is, sorry. As recently announced by the White House, country-specific hits. Major increases include Brazil and Canada up to 35%, Sri Lanka 30%, with a baseline reciprocal tariff of 15 to 20%, IEEPA-based reciprocal tariff using the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Trump implemented a universal 10% tariff on April 5th, 2025, scaled with a higher rate selected countries up to 50%, then paused and reactivated with legal challenges ongoing. And I believe Trump, with these tariffs that he's announcing that he wants to put in on August 1st, I think he's going to implement some of these tariffs because he thinks, and the media, and he perceives the rest of the nation and the world as he's soft and he's all talk and he won't actually do it. And I think he's going to do it. And when he does it, I think that's going to have a quick, swift sell-off in the stock market and in cryptocurrencies, just like it did here. If you look at the year's time frame, it doesn't look like much now, but just like it did here, you had a 22% sell-off in the Bitcoin price. You had a 50% sell-off in Ethereum. In the stock market, you had a, what is this? About a 20% sell-off. You would have to come into here to see it, actually. Come into here, into the weekly time frame. Look at it. See it right there? You had in the Dow Jones, from peak to trough, you had an 18% correction. And the NASDAQ, it was much steeper. The NASDAQ is more of the tech-savvy stocks, but now it's at an all-time high. It went down 25%, right? And then the S&P went down even farther. And I believe that's going to happen again, as he's going to manipulate the market because they're criminally manipulated. He doesn't want to be perceived as soft and all talk, and he's going to actually implement these tariffs. And that's going to cause a temporary pause in the most recent all-time high in Bitcoin. And it's going to put a temporary pause and hold, just like it did right here when he tried to implement the tariffs back there. It was a strategic time in the stock market and in crypto to have a nice sell-off before he paused it, which created the next rally. I think that is what's going to happen now again. And if it doesn't happen, we're going to 152,000 in Bitcoin. If it does happen, I think in the next 2 to 3 weeks, you're going to see a top. and then we start to trade down in the stock market and in crypto as he actually enforces and puts into law the tariffs, and then that's another ball game. But in the meantime, you got your initial on the upside. If you continue to trade to the upside, obviously the upper end of this rising channel at 152,000, yes, is your upper target. If he implements the tariffs and they actually do go in, you will see the Bitcoin price wherever it's at come immediately down to the rising channel, lower support on the rising channel if he implements the tariffs, which would be from where it's at now on the rising channel, a 13% correction. Come here. The program director's talking. Come here, baby. And yes, the program director's doing fine, but he did try to kill himself because he got stung by a bee in his windowsill and then jumped off the windowsill 3 feet and landed on his head and caused some bloody nose and mouth, but he is okay. That was a week ago, but he wanted to talk just to let you guys know he's fine. But I believe that the tariffs are actually put in, you would see a 25 to 35% correction in the stock market and in crypto with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and obviously the altcoins that have a bigger correction if they actually do implement the tariffs, which would promote a heightening and continued push to the upside in the once in a generational commodity bull run that we're in. And I believe gold would breach and break its all-time high set about a month ago, would get over 35.50, get to 3,600, and palladium and platinum, I think, would run fast. As you can see, copper is at an all-time high at 559. If he does implement the tariffs, I think the stock market would sell off. I think crypto would have a brief sell-off, and I think the commodities would continue and would exacerbate it to the upside. And I'm just giving you that warning. I know I'm rambling because I was drinking earlier, so I ramble a little bit. But I wanted to give you this update. You can see we already looked at XLM. If you look at the XRP looks to me like it's primed to have another leg to the upside. And if we zoom into the 2-hour time frame, if this breaks to the upside and XRP, here's where you're going on the next pump. Targeted move would be from there to there. You would see that would breach the $3.02, and that would bring you almost, is that going to bring you to the swing high? 340. If this does break to the upside, this will bring you to a new swing high and would breach the 340, and this would have a targeted move of all the way up here at $3.69 based off of this consolidation right here. And there's not a lot of volume or resistance. You can see, with the volume right here. See that, how it falls off with how big it was there, and it finally broke it. And we told you if it broke to the upside and finally breached that, it would spike and spike quick. But if it doesn't do that and doesn't breach this formation and starts to trade down to the downside, which you'd want to see on the downside move would be down here to the $2.50, is your short to medium term new bullish support level like the 209 neckline support used to. As long as you're above the $2.56 level right there, you're short to medium and long term bullish. If you break below the 256, you're short to medium term bearish, and you'd be looking for an underneath support of the moving averages and then the 209 neckline support. But as long as you're above that 255, you're looking at an upside target of the initially 302 and then eventually a 374 target, right? If you look at DAMP, this is one that I believe and made a big call on several months ago, and I put a nice blog post out why I believe in the next several weeks to months this will eventually break out of what I believe is a bull flag and come between the 2.5 and 6 cent level in the next 3 to 4 months. You can see we've held the support down here. We're starting to breach up. We're now just above the 50-day moving average in the daily time frame. We're just above it and just below the 100-day. And I believe we're going to be building the base here. You can see where you have the wick. You have a miniature bull flag here, and I believe this is building it on top of it to push up to the next leg of this push to breach the 100-day moving average in the daily time frame. Then it's going to build the base and breach the 200-day moving average in the daily time frame. Then it's going to blow past this 0.0050, and that's when it can load up and make its big massive 1x move from there by holding support, and then it can move from the 0.0050 and change, breach the old high rate here, the regional high, and then come all the way up another 111% to the pattern resistance at 0.00120, right? That's what I think is going on there. I gotta go to bed. I'm gonna eat some late dinner. Peace and love. The Rock Eyebrow, Jay.